You're listening to the Optimal Performance Podcast. Welcome back to the Optimal Performance Podcast. Matt here. Gonna go through the Mediterranean diet with you today. The reason for this podcast is we've had a lot of feedback and a lot of attention around the Mediterranean diet. So we're gonna take you through the history, the basics of it, how to incorporate it into your daily life, and the benefits that you can get from this diet. So where does the Mediterranean diet come from? So the Mediterranean diet, it's commonly known as the best diet. It's voted the best diet in of all of the researches and surveys that are conducted across the world, to be fair. It's based on the eating patterns of the Mediterranean region, obviously, but it shows specific target of the Greece, Italy and Spain regions. Now, in the 60s, these regions had the lowest rates of chronic diseases. That is one of the reasons why this is one of the most studied and researched diets out today. So where does this diet come from? First originated in Crete in the 1940s, specifically 1948. The Greek government hired the Rockefeller Foundation to conduct a research into how to elongate the lifespan in Greece. So their idea was this company would come in, conduct research and advise how to increase longevity within the regions. What they actually found was that the Cretan diet was by far superior to that of the US. They was not expecting this. The whole idea was to try and increase longevity, whereas actually the US actually benefited more from this than the Cretans did. Now, as a basis, the diet back then was just mainly created from wild greens, fruit, herbs, beans, olive oil, and some meats and fish. Now, in the 50s and 60s, multiple studies were conducted and showed that the increased fat from the olive oil in particular contributed massively towards a higher life expectancy and reduced cardiovascular diseases. In the early 90s, Harvard and the World Health Organization began to publish this diet for future reference in Western societies and the US. In early 2000s, it became the recommended diet throughout doctors in the US. So on the background of this diet, the research has been going on since the late 40s. That's why it's the most researched diet today. So what are the basics of the Mediterranean diet? It's a mainly plant-sourced diet, but does include some meats and fishes, but just not every day. Olive oil is the main fat intake in place of the likes of butters and other alternatives like margarine and stuff like that. Almost every meal has olive oil either cooked in it or drizzled on top. This diet includes a daily intake of yogurts and cheeses. So mainly you'll be looking into your Greek yogurts, which is naturally low fat. Fish and poultry can be consumed up to 2 times a week, maybe 3, depending on portion sizes. Fish more so leaning towards the fish. About 4 eggs a week. That's not a lot of eggs. It's possibly a reduction in eggs for most people. Daily fruits pretty much with every meal. Red meat once a week, maybe twice if you reduce it to a side dish size. Wine is fine with meals, but limited to 1 glass of wine a day. Obviously, that doesn't mean that you have to have 1 glass of wine a day. That just means that you can have 1 glass of wine a day. With this in mind, the Mediterranean diet operates on a slightly higher fat intake than most diets that you've probably seen in the past. That's not to say that that's a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. That's the reason for the increased lifespan and reduction in risk of cardiovascular diseases. So moving into the daily and weekly intakes of foods, drinks and what to avoid on this diet. So the main thing is olive oil. So the olive oil should be your main fat source within your diet. This should replace butters, lards, margarines, any of the plant-based alternatives. If you don't replace them and you just add the olive oil, you will not get the benefits. This needs to be a replacement of those things. That's not to say that you can't have any butters or anything like that. It's just that olive oil should replace butter as your main ingredient for cooking and drizzling and stuff like that. So like sauces should be olive oil based. Veg should be in every meal. It should be the main thing in most meals. The only occasions are when you have your 1 or 2 meat and fish dishes per week. Fruit should be with every meal, either in the meal or after the meal as a dessert. Dairy can be 2 to 3 times a day. Red meats once a week. Poultry and fish between 2 and 3 times a week together. That's not 2 or 3 chicken dishes and 2 or 3 salmon dishes. That's 2 or 3 of either. Your grains and bread, so fresh bread can be consumed daily. Up to 3 slices of fresh bread. That's not to say the massive loaves, just cook a massive loaf and then that's it. But it should be fresh bread. So going to the bakery at your local supermarkets or going to your local bakery down the shops, that's where you should be getting your bread from. Grains should be limited a little bit, but not too much. A couple of times a week. Pasta should be a couple of times a week maximum. Your fruit and nuts, so your little mixtures, your melodies of fruit and nuts, that should be like pretty much every day, if not maybe 3 times a week. So bean intake, so all your different types of beans can be up to 3 times per week. Moving on to your drinks, mainly water. Water intake is a massive one on the Mediterranean diet. There should be very little soft drinks, so like your fizzy drinks and your flavoured drinks. Flavourings in your drink should be coming from your water, and then fruits added to those, or vegetables added to those, cucumbers, stuff like that. Wine with meals only, so 1 glass of wine a night maximum. If you want that in the daytime, that's fine, but it all depends on your lifestyle. But it's only 1 glass of wine, it's not a bottle, and it certainly doesn't mean that you can save those glasses of wine throughout the week and then team them into 2 bottles of wine over a weekend. Herbal teas are okay. That's not to say that you should be having milk with those. These are just herbal teas, so if you're having black tea, it should be just black tea, nothing else in it. Peppermint teas, green teas, all the different types, and they're fine as long as you're not putting anything in there that isn't brewed. Coffee intake should be 1 to 2 a day. Obviously people in offices, people on shift work and stuff like that may consume quite a bit more than that. You shouldn't be drinking more than 2 cups of coffee on this diet to reap the health benefits that it comes with. Things to avoid on this diet is veg and seed oils. So all the healthy options, basically, compared to olive oil, that the clever marketing teams are pushing you towards with canola oil and rapeseed oil, all these different types and all these different avenues to go down, makes it really confusing for people. The Mediterranean diet is based around olive oil, with the obviously abundance of olive in the region. All these low fat healthy options, which they are labelled as low fat, takes away the benefits from the high fat of olive oil. The studies show that it's the high fat intake from the olive oil which contributes towards these health benefits. So reducing that with canola oil or rapeseed oil and other oils out there basically takes away those health benefits that you should be getting from the Mediterranean diet. Highly processed foods, obviously we all know that we shouldn't really be eating highly processed foods, but we all do because they're readily available and let's be honest, they taste nice. There's nothing better than something that's naughty for you. But in a health standpoint and a diet standpoint, then they're not really going to be feeding into the longevity of life. As I mentioned before, soft drinks, so your likes of fizzy drinks like cola, Fanta, stuff like that, they shouldn't be drunk. They should be occasions. Not to say that you can't have one, but it shouldn't be part of your daily routine and your daily diet. Flavoured yogurts. Now I know we said that yogurts are a part of this diet, but flavoured yogurts are not. They have a lot of additives in them. They have a lot of stuff that they shouldn't have in them for health benefits and health reasons. So sticking to the plain Greek yogurt or the Skyr Icelandic yogurt is a similar one. You can add things to that, but it should all be fresh produce. So you can add honey to them, you can add fruits to them. You don't need to be buying the flavoured ones. Generally the unflavoured ones are a lot cheaper as well. And then finally, the ready-made dressings. So what people tend to do when they go towards salads and veg-based meals is they tend to dress these with ready-made, store-bought dressings and sauces. These are not designed with health in mind. These are designed to tickle your taste buds. You only need to have olive oil as a dressing. There's no need to be using these store-bought dressings. If you want a little bit more, then make it out of olive oil. So find the recipe online or something like that and design your own. So a few little tips to help ease your way into this diet: by reducing your red meat slowly down to 2 portions per week, but making those portion sizes smaller as side plates maybe. And then once you get used to that, then you can incorporate it once a week into a meal. As spoken about before, olive oil should replace other fats like butters. Once opened, it should be consumed within 3 to 6 months depending on the environment. So that means that, is it in sunlight? What bottle is it in? Is it in a clear glass bottle? Is it in a plastic bottle? Or is it in an opaque glass bottle, which is the preferred bottle to be put in, because it does react to sunlight. Also, once opened, it reacts to oxygen. That's why it only lasts for 3 to 6 months. So a little tip for olive oil is buy it in small bottles, which are in glass bottles, not plastic. Also, extra virgin olive oil is okay to fry with. There's been a lot of controversy on this lately. A lot of cooking programs and that saying that you shouldn't be cooking with this. You should be cooking with canola oil or rapeseed oil or something like that, which has a higher smoke point. Extra virgin olive oil has a smoke point of 410 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 210 degrees centigrade. You very rarely will supersede that in a conventional kitchen. Therefore, you are fine to fry with it and cook with it normal. You don't have to have an array of oils to cook your meals. The Mediterranean way is to use extra virgin olive oil for everything from frying, baking, all the way down to dressing a salad at the end of the preparation. Also, if you are frying with olive oil, do not reuse it. A lot of places reuse their oils after frying. Olive oil is not the type of oil that you should be doing that with. Once you have cooked with it, you have cooked a lot of the nutrients out of it, so it will not give you the same health benefits once you recook that again. Another tip is to keep to simple recipes. Simple recipes will help you with a diet always. When you're changing your eating plans and your eating styles, a lot of people go to the internet and go and have a look for these extravagant meals that you can prepare, these very flamboyant dishes. A lot of cooking programs on the TV, they only ever show flamboyant and very tasty meals. That's not to say that you can't have a quick and simple meal that's tasty and nutritious. There's lots out there, and if you are struggling to consume the fish intake, then canned fish is okay. That's a little tip that people don't really realise when they're doing diets. It's perfectly fine on the Mediterranean diet. So what are the benefits of a Mediterranean diet? So just going to touch on the claim benefits that have come to light with the research that involved. Now, this research is over 60 years worth, and some of the research and almost facts now have been proven over those many years. So the reduced risk of heart disease and cardiovascular disease is in near enough every study of the Mediterranean diet studies. That goes alongside with increased longevity of the population, which is proven in the lifespan of the regions. All the regions with Mediterranean diets and similar diets have a very high longevity score and a very low mortality score. The studies suggest that it protects from developing type 2 diabetes alongside the reduced risk of cancers. Now, the cancers that they say mainly are reduced by this diet is colon cancer, breast cancer and prostate cancer. Now, this is down to the rich vitamin C, vitamin E, omega-3, antioxidants and much more. The high fats, the high omegas from your olive oil play a massive part in this. The diet itself promotes weight loss. Now, that's not to say that this is a weight loss program. This is a life diet. It's a diet to live a healthy and long life. The reason why it'll promote weight loss is because it takes you away from the processed foods. It takes you away from the really harmful foods to your body and puts you back to a more natural style of eating in the locally fresh produced foods. This can increase your mood as well, as in like depressions and stuff like that. It can help massively just because of the reduced oxidative stress in the body from your foods, and this is shown by the high anti-inflammatory foods that you will consume on the Mediterranean diet. You'll have an increased protection from Alzheimer's and dementias and other neurological diseases. That's not to say that it will reverse any of these, it's to say that you will have a better chance of not developing these diseases. The studies show that the cognitive decline is reduced when you are operating on a Mediterranean diet. And just to finish off on the benefits of this diet are a couple of statistic numbers. So 9% reduction in mortality and cardiovascular diseases, 6% reduction of cancers, and a 13% reduction of neurological diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. These are massive touching points. These are things that people are afraid of when they're getting older, of Alzheimer's and dementias. And people don't know how to stop that happening or how to give their body the best chance of not developing these diseases. All the research points towards the Mediterranean diet being the diet for that, and the diet that will help with that. So all in all, a Mediterranean diet has huge benefits to your life expectancy and longevity. Now, there are similar diets out there that operate under the same premise, two of them being the Nordic diet and the Okinawa diet, which is the Japanese style. The Nordic diet has a massive emphasis on locally sourced foods. The idea behind this is an eco-friendly diet. Now, the only downfall really I see from the Nordic diet is the replacement from olive oil to canola oil because of the natural rapeseed production in the Nordic regions. Canola oil does not have the health benefits that olive oil has, and in the Mediterranean diet, canola oil is basically told to avoid. One of the positives from a Nordic diet is the more soluble fibre from oats, rye and barleys, which help with lowering harmful cholesterol levels. Now, the Okinawa diet is very similar to the Mediterranean diet, but it's more emphasis on the vegetables for the protein source, not going towards fish and poultry. Very small amounts of fish and pork, probably one portion per week, if that. So the emphasis is on vegetable proteins. There's a low intake of refined grains, so that's your white breads, your white rice, your pastas. More about potatoes, squash and lentils, things of those natures, which has its health benefits. The only issue with these two diets really is that the research is not as extensive as the Mediterranean diet. To be honest, there's no diet out there that has more research than the Mediterranean diet. And the reason for that is because those regions have massively higher life expectancies and chronic disease rates are much, much lower. Now, both of these alternatives, the Nordic and the Okinawa diet, are hugely emphasized on locally sourced foods. Now, to operate those diets in the UK proves a big change to the diets. These are not now locally sourced foods. This is now not a eco-friendly diet for the UK to consume. So if you are looking at it as in a economical point of view, yes, the Nordics, eating a Nordic diet is a eco-friendly local produce diet. With them being locally sourced, I feel like this is what limits the Nordic diet massively when it replaces the olive oil with the canola oil. Olive oil is known in the research as one of the main factors for reducing mortality and increasing life expectancy. So how do we incorporate a Mediterranean diet into our lifestyles? Now, Mediterranean diet is just a framework of a diet. It's not a Bible. It's not something that you need to follow. Each person's requirements are different, whether it be losing weight, gaining muscle, conditioning, or actually performing and increasing performance. All of these can be ticked off with this Mediterranean diet. It just needs to be adapted to each person. So that'll be everything from your lifestyle, your weight, your height, your gender, and also what you want to get out of this. So if you want to lose scale weight, that's possible. If you want to increase scale weight, that's also possible. It just all depends on how you interpret and how you adapt this diet to suit. So the word diet is misinterpreted daily. A diet is commonly known as something to lose weight. So you are now going to restrict yourself from certain foods and drinks to lose weight. A diet is not that, and it should not be labelled as that. A diet is just your eating patterns. So a Mediterranean diet is just a pattern that you follow for your life expectancy, for your longevity, for your health benefits. Now, if you want to lose weight, you adapt that diet to suit. So you adapt your intake, you change some subtle things around it. If you want to gain weight, you'll increase your calorie intake, and you'll maybe change how much protein you have, how much carbs you have, how much fat you have, depending on what your goal is. So with that in mind, Optimal Performance offer personalised nutrition plans. Now these plans, which will be popping up on the screen shortly, are designed for each person. It's not a generic plan. It's not a meal plan. Now a meal plan is completely different. This is a plan of a framework. So you need to operate around this framework and develop your meals yourself through them. Now, don't get me wrong, we do offer suggestions of meals and stuff like that periodically in the forums and the group websites, but this plan is mainly a guidance. So here we have a diet plan that we have put together for use today, using me as an example. As you can see, it's got age, sex, height, weight, activity levels, Mediterranean diet, preferred eating style, and then losing weight and a set goal. So we see that there's portion sizes, help to monitor those rather than having to stick to scale weights. It makes it a lot easier when you're preparing meals, and then also when you're plating up meals, it's a lot easier to judge when you're plating up. Also gives tips on how to meet your targets, gives you a tracking sheet to tick off as you go through the day, and then also, because it's a Mediterranean diet, it gives you guidance on what you should be eating more of, eating less of, and eating a moderate amount of. And when you're having your vegetables, you need to have an array of colours. So this is what we mean by eat the rainbow. You need to have a different array of colours within your diet. So not just all greens, not just all purples, reds, oranges or whites. You need to have a mixture of it all. Then finally, on the end of it, it provides you with options, with common questions on how to progress from a plateau. Finally, for me, I would recommend this diet to pretty much anybody. The benefits from it are massive, and it's not very restrictive. You get to eat a lot of the things that you like, and half of the time when you go to these diets, especially the Mediterranean diets, you'll probably find that you're eating a lot more tasty food and a lot less bad food. Energy levels will probably surge after a while. Feel good factor, your mood obviously increases with the benefits we spoke about earlier, and also your longevity will obviously increase with this diet. The research is massive into it. It's hugely research based, and there's no other diet on the market at the minute that compares to the benefits that you can get from the Mediterranean diet. And the best thing about it is we can alter this for whatever your goal is. If your goal is to gain weight, then you can gain weight on this diet. It's not a diet for losing weight only, it's an all-rounder. So I hope you've enjoyed this podcast, and I hope you've learned a little bit about the Mediterranean diet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.